The screams in the dust arena. The sun was burning hot above the desert arena. The air was dry, and the wind carried the smell of sweat, blood, and fear. Around the circular arena, hundreds of alien spectators shouted, laughed, and waited for the next show. It wasn't a game. It was an execution. In the center of the arena stood a giant metal wheel. Rusty blades were attached to it. Ropes and iron cuffs hung from its arms like the bones of old victims. Today, a young alien girl was tied to it. She had silver skin, glowing blue eyes, and long, tangled hair full of dust. Her small wrists were chained tightly. She couldn't move. Her lips were dry, her face pale, and her eyes were full of silent tears. The crowd didn't care. To them, she was nothing but dirt blood, a race long hated and almost wiped out. An announcer stepped forward. His voice echoed through speakers. "Let the execution begin. Let the wheel spin." A roar of laughter and cheering exploded. A large alien, muscular, red-skinned, with robotic arms, stepped toward the girl. He was the executioner. His sharp teeth showed as he smiled, enjoying every moment. He pulled a lever. The wheel began to turn slowly. The girl whimpered. Her eyes shut tight, but suddenly, a figure walked into the arena. Everyone went quiet. He wasn't from their planet. He wore a black coat made of leather, heavy boots, and armor on his chest. A strange sword hung from his back, something old, something forbidden. His face was partly covered with a cloth mask, but the sharp human eyes underneath were full of fire. "Stop," the human said, his voice calm but firm. The crowd booed. Some threw sand and bones at him. The announcer laughed. "And who are you, outsider? This is not your business." The human stepped forward again. "Untie her." The executioner grinned and cracked his knuckles. "Another fool wants to die, today." But the human didn't flinch. "If you want blood," he said slowly, "take mine instead." The crowd screamed louder. "Fight, fight, fight!" The announcer smiled wide. "Then let it be so. Human versus executioner. The winner decides her fate." Guards pulled the girl and tied her tighter to the wheel. She cried out weakly, "No, run! They'll kill you." But the human didn't move. He dropped his coat to the ground. Underneath was armor full of scratches, burns, and cuts. He had seen war before. His hand slowly pulled the sword from his back. It glowed faintly in the sunlight. The executioner charged like a beast, roaring as his heavy fists came crashing down. The human ducked, rolled, and sliced, not to kill, but to warn. Sparks flew as metal met steel. The executioner howled in pain. The crowd wasn't laughing anymore. Blow after blow, the human danced around the giant, using speed instead of strength. He wasn't just a fighter. He was a soldier, trained, focused, dangerous. Then with one final move, the human kicked the executioner back and slashed the chains holding the girl. Clank! One by one, the chains snapped. Her arms fell free. Her body dropped into the human's arms. Gasps filled the air. "He's freeing a condemned," someone shouted. "That's treason," screamed another. The guards ran in. The announcer yelled, "Kill them both!" But the human didn't panic. He held the girl close and ran toward the broken gate near the side of the arena, something no one had noticed until now. It was half buried in sand. He kicked it open with all his strength and disappeared inside with the girl. Behind him, alarms rang out. Deep inside the underground passage, the human laid the girl gently on the cold stone floor. She was shaking, too weak to sit up. He tore a piece of his cloak and gave her water from a small metal flask. "Why?" she whispered. "Why did you save me?" The human looked at her and simply said, "Because no one else would." In the darkness above, the crowd was still screaming. But down here, a new story had begun. One that would shake empires. One that started with a chained girl and a human warrior who said no. The tunnel behind the arena was narrow, dark, and full of dust. Broken pipes dripped water onto the stone floor, and every sound echoed like thunder. The human warrior moved quickly, carrying the alien girl in his arms. She was light, far too light. Her body trembled and her skin was cold. Still, her glowing blue eyes watched him with a mix of fear and confusion. Above them, alarms howled. The crowd was in chaos and guards were already searching the lower levels. The human knew he had only minutes before they were trapped. He turned a sharp corner and kicked open an old service door. Inside was a small storage room filled with boxes and tools. He set the girl down gently and locked the door behind them. Then he pulled a rusted metal rod across the handles to buy more time. Monsieur, the girl tried to sit up but winced. Her wrists were bleeding from the chains. Without saying a word, the human took a cloth from his belt and carefully wrapped her wounds. She didn't resist. She just stared at him, trying to understand who he was and why he was helping her. "You're not one of them," she whispered. "No," he said simply. "I'm human." She blinked. "Humans left this sector years ago. Why are you here?" He didn't answer right away. He was listening. Boots were stomping somewhere nearby. "They won't stop," she said quietly. "They'll hunt you now, because of me." The human turned his eyes toward her, calm but sharp. "Let them try." Suddenly, the metal door behind them shook with force. A voice shouted from outside. "Open up! By order of the Grand Warden!" The human picked up his sword and helped the girl to her feet. "Can you walk?" She nodded weakly. He opened the door fast and pulled her behind him. A squad of armored guards stood ready, weapons drawn. Behind them, the executioner stood again, bruised and bleeding but more furious than ever. His robotic arm sparked and he pointed straight at the human. "I'll crush you, outsider. No one defies me in my own arena." The human didn't flinch. "Try." With that, he charged forward. The guards moved in first, forming a wall of spears, but the human moved faster than they expected. He slid beneath one spear, slashed through a guard's armor, and spun with deadly grace. His sword flashed like lightning, clean cuts, disabling blows, no wasted movement. The executioner roared and stomped forward, swinging his massive arm at the human's head. The human ducked and rolled, slicing into the beast's side. Sparks burst from the metal. The crowd above was silent now, listening to the chaos below. The alien girl leaned against the wall, watching. Her heart pounded. She had never seen anyone fight like him. He wasn't just brave. He was skilled, precise, like a ghost made of steel. The executioner swung again, this time grabbing the human's shoulder and slamming him into the wall. Dust rained down. The human gasped, but twisted around and drove, his knee into the executioner's jaw. The brute stumbled back, dazed. One final strike, quick and deep, slashed through the executioner's power source on his arm. The machine hissed and exploded with a flash of blue light. The executioner screamed as his arm went limp, sparking wildly. The human stepped back, breathing hard, sword ready. The guards hesitated now. Without their leader, fear crept into their eyes. The human looked at them coldly. "Do you really want to fight someone who just beat him?" The guards backed away slowly. The human didn't smile. He simply walked to the girl and helped her. "Stand. We're leaving," he said. "No one leaves the arena alive," one guard whispered. But the human did not stop. He pushed open the exit gate, and for a moment, sunlight poured into the tunnel. He and the girl stepped into the light together, wounded, hunted, but alive. Behind them, no one dared follow. The arena, once full of cheers and hate, now stood, silent. They climbed a hill outside the city walls and found an old transport parked in the sand. The human opened the door, started the engine, and guided the girl inside. As they drove into the wasteland, she looked at him again. "You don't even know my name," she said softly. He glanced at her. "You don't know mine either," he replied. She gave a tired smile. "It's Vela," he nodded. "I'm Roran." She looked out the window at the desert, then at the man who had risked everything for her. Her voice was quiet. "Why would a human save someone like me?" He answered, without turning his head. "Because I don't care what you are, I care who you are. The transport moved fast across the dry desert, kicking up clouds of sand behind it. The old engine rattled, but it held strong under Roran's skilled hands. Inside, Viola sat in silence, her body weak, but her mind racing. She kept glancing at him, this quiet human who had appeared from nowhere, fought monsters for her, and now drove toward a future she couldn't see. Behind them, the city of Arvex shrank into the haze. But the danger didn't fade with the distance. Hovercrafts flew above them. Drones scanned the land. The executioner's defeat had been broadcast live. Every powerful lord and bounty hunter now wanted Roran dead, and Vela returned. Inside the transport, Roran stared ahead, eyes sharp. "We'll need to stop before nightfall," he said. "You need food and rest." Vela shook her head slowly. "They'll find us." "They'll try," Roran replied. She studied his calm face. "You're not afraid?" "Fear doesn't help when you're already being hunted." Vela leaned back and whispered, "They hate my kind. They don't even remember why anymore. They just, kill us." Roran didn't answer, but his grip on the wheel tightened. The transport passed an old sign buried in sand. Zone 7, ruins beyond this point. A warning. Roran drove faster. After an hour, they reached a rocky hill. Below it was a forgotten mining camp. Rusty towers, broken shelters, long abandoned. Roran parked the transport behind a pile of scrap metal and helped Viola down. She stumbled but caught herself. "Hide inside," he said, pointing to a half-collapsed shelter. "What about you? I'll check the area. If I don't come back in 20 minutes, run." She didn't argue. She crawled into the shelter and watched him disappear into the broken buildings like a shadow. Inside, her legs trembled, not just from weakness, but from something growing inside her chest. Hope, something she hadn't felt in years. It scared her. Outside, Roran moved carefully. He scanned the area, checking for drones, sensors, or traps. Nothing. Just silence, wind, and bones. He returned quickly, carrying a cracked metal container. "Water," he said, handing it to her. "Not clean, but better than nothing." She drank slowly. "Thank you." Roran sat beside her, facing the setting sun. "I've seen your kind before," he said after a moment. "A long time ago, when I was a soldier, we were told your people were dangerous, violent." Viola looked down. "That's what they want everyone to believe. My mother was a healer. She helped the wounded during the border wars. They called her a traitor. They burned her alive." Roran turned to her. "I'm sorry." She looked at him, eyes glistening. "Why are you really helping me, Roran?" He didn't answer right away. The sun touched the horizon, painting the sky red and gold. "When I left Earth, I promised I'd never take another life unless I had to. But I also promised myself, if I ever had the chance to do the right thing, I would." She nodded slowly. "Then you're a rare kind of warrior." Just then, a faint buzzing sound broke the quiet. Roran's eyes narrowed. A black speck hovered above the ruins. A drone. "Get down!" he shouted, pulling her close as the drone fired. A plasma shot ripped through the roof. Dust and metal exploded, everywhere. Roran rolled over Viola, shielding her. Another shot came, missing them by inches. "We have to move." They ran out into the open. Roran drew his sword and swung it, cutting a fallen pipe that smashed into the drone. It spun out of control and crashed nearby, burning. But the sound had already been heard. Far away, more engines roared. "Tracker drone," Vela said, gasping. "They'll be here in minutes." Roran cursed under his breath. "Then we can't. Stay." He grabbed her hand and pulled her toward the transport. But Viola stopped suddenly. "There's a faster way," she said. "A tunnel system under the mines. My people used it before we were hunted." "You're sure?" She nodded. "I remember the entrance. Come." They ran toward the edge of the ruins. Behind a collapsed tower, half buried in sand, was a round, metal hatch. Viola dropped to her knees and pressed her hand on a small panel beside it. A soft beep. A hiss. The hatch opened, The sound of incoming hovercrafts grew louder. "Go!" Roran shouted. They both climbed inside, closing the hatch behind them. Darkness swallowed them. Only their breaths remained. Then, lights flickered on along the tunnel. Walls, old but working. Roran looked at her with a strange smile. "You led us into the dark," he said. "But it might be the safest place we've been yet." Viola smiled back. "For now," she said. "But it's a long way to the end." And together they moved forward, into the unknown. The tunnel was narrow, cold, and filled with the scent of old metal and damp earth. The dim lights above flickered as Roran and Vela walked deeper into the forgotten underground system. Dust floated in the air with every step. Their shadows stretched behind them like ghosts. Roran moved in front, sword ready, his boots silent. Vela followed close, her hand brushing the wall, steadying herself as her strength returned slowly. Neither of them spoke at first. The silence between them was not empty but full of unspoken questions. After some distance, they stopped in a large chamber where old mining carts rested on rusted rails. Roran checked all corners quickly, then gave a small nod. "We'll rest here for a few minutes." Viola sat down on a piece of broken metal, breathing heavily. "These tunnels go all the way to the forest ridge," she said. "It's a safe place. No one hunts there anymore." Roran crouched beside her. "You said your people used these tunnels?" She nodded. "Long ago, before we were declared enemies. This was our escape path, but most didn't make it." Roran tilted his head. "Then how did you survive?" Viola looked down at her hands. Her fingers trembled. For a moment, she didn't speak. Then slowly she pulled the torn sleeve of her arm back, revealing a mark burned into her skin, a glowing blue symbol shaped like a flame with 3 lines through it. "This is how," she whispered. "This mark." Roran leaned closer. The light from the tunnel shimmered on it. "What is it?" "It's royal," Viola said softly. "My bloodline, my birthright. The others, they were commoners, workers, farmers, but I'm the last daughter of the Seer Queen, the one who saw the stars." Roran's eyes narrowed slightly. "That makes you the heir?" Vela nodded, slowly. "To a kingdom that no longer exists. They wiped it out, bombed our cities, shattered our temples. They erased my mother's name from the archives. But they couldn't erase the blood inside me. So they locked me up, chained me, and displayed me like a warning." Roran didn't speak for a while. He looked at the symbol again, then at her face. "And that's why they hate you so much?" "No," Viola said. "That's why they're afraid of me." She placed her hand on the floor. "There's something else, Roran. I can feel it growing stronger since you rescued me, like something waking up inside." Roran rested his sword beside him. "What kind of something?" Viola hesitated. "When I was young, my mother told me I had a gift. She said the royal blood gave more than power. It gave connection. To life, to energy, to fire, wind, and light. But I never learned how to use it. I was too young when she died, and after that, I just survived." She looked up, tears in her eyes. "But now, when that drone fired at us, something in me burned. I wanted to stop it. I felt heat in my chest, in my hands, but I didn't know how." Roran looked at her for a long moment. Then he reached into a small pouch on his belt and pulled out a metal disc. He pressed a button and a tiny hologram flickered to life. It showed a woman, tall, regal, with glowing blue eyes like Vela's. She gasped. That's her. That's my mother." "I found this in a black market vault 5 years ago," Roran said. "No one knew what it was. I kept it, because something about her face wouldn't let me throw it away." Viola reached out, touched the glowing image, and whispered, "Mother." The hologram played a short message in a soft alien language. Viola translated aloud. "If you find this message, and if you see this mark upon your skin, you carry the last flame of our world. Protect it. Find the temple. And awaken the memory. Roran's jaw tightened. There's a temple? Viola nodded. In the forest ridge, deep inside the old ruins, my people used to gather there for rites and rituals. The memory core. It's hidden inside. Then we're going, Roran said. Viola looked at him. You don't have to do this. They'll hunt you. You could turn back now and live. He met her eyes without fear. And let them kill the last flame of your world. No. I don't run from what's right. Before Vela could speak again, the tunnel lights flickered twice, then went out. Complete silence. Then a strange sound echoed. Slow, dragging footsteps. Roran stood quickly, sword in hand. Something's here. From the shadows beyond, red eyes blinked to life. Not guards, Viola whispered. Tunnel hunters. Roran moved in front of her. Stay close. But as the beasts crept nearer, something changed in the air. Vela's mark began to glow brighter. Her breath quickened. The heat inside her returned, stronger now. She stepped forward. Viola. Roran started, but stopped when he saw her eyes burning like stars. She raised her hand, and the tunnel filled with light. The tunnel lit up with a strange golden light, bright and warm yet coming from no lamp or flame. It poured from Viola's skin like a sunrise trapped in her body. Her eyes shone like two stars. The symbol on her arm blazed so bright that it reflected off the walls. Even the tunnel hunters, creatures made for darkness, froze in confusion. They were tall and thin, their limbs too long, their skin stretched like paper. Sharp claws dragged along the metal as they crept forward. Their red eyes blinked rapidly in the light and low growls rose from their throats. But Viola didn't step back. She stepped forward. Vela! Roran called out, unsure whether to stop her or protect her. She didn't answer. The air shimmered around her. A pulse of light moved out from her chest like a wave across water. The ground shook slightly. The hunters hissed and stumbled. One of them leapt forward with a roar. Roran moved to defend, but he didn't need to. Vela raised her hand. Her fingers glowed. Then, like fire caught in the wind, a blast of golden energy shot from her palm. It struck the creature mid-air, sending it crashing into the wall. The stone cracked. The hunter didn't rise again. The others shrieked in fear. Roran stood still, sword half raised, watching her in shock. He had fought battles, seen alien weapons, faced death, but nothing like this. This was raw power. This was something ancient. Viola turned her head toward the rest of the creatures. Leave, she said. Not a scream, not a threat. Just a voice filled with quiet command, and they did. One by one, the tunnel hunters backed away, snarling and whimpering, before vanishing into the dark. Silence returned. Viola dropped to her knees. The light around her faded. Her skin stopped glowing. She gasped for breath like someone who had just climbed out of deep water. Roran rushed to her side. Are you hurt? She shook her head weakly. I'm okay. Just tired. That never happened before. You controlled it, he said, kneeling beside her. You saved us both. She looked at her hands, still glowing faintly. I didn't know I could. Roran helped her to her feet. You're more than just a survivor now. You're something they'll never understand, something they'll fear even more. Vela gave a faint smile. I've been feared my whole life. But for the first time, I don't feel afraid. They continued walking through the tunnel, slower now. The path sloped upward, and fresh air began to flow in. It smelled of soil and leaves. They were getting closer to the forest ridge. As they walked, Roran remained silent for a while. Then he finally spoke. I saw something like that once, he said quietly. During the war, a soldier from your kind, he stopped a falling dropship with his hands, burned out his own life doing it, but he saved hundreds. Viola looked at him. They called us monsters after that. They were afraid, and fear makes people cruel. Vela nodded. Maybe now I understand what my mother meant. She said our light would return. That one day the last child of fire would rise. You think that's you? She hesitated. I don't want to be someone important. I just want to be someone free. Roran looked at her with something like pride in his eyes. Then maybe you'll be both. As they reached the end of the tunnel, sunlight spilled in from a broken grate. Roran climbed out first, then helped Vela through. They emerged into a thick forest filled with green mist and golden leaves. Birds flew above. It was peaceful, almost unreal after the chaos they had seen. But peace didn't last long. A sound buzzed above them. A small drone hovered overhead, silent but deadly. A red light blinked under its belly. Roran reached for his sword, but the drone shot away before he could aim. It saw us, he said. Vila's face went pale. That was a hunter's eye. It reports directly to bounty captains. How long? Do we have? Not long, she replied. They'll be here before nightfall. Roran looked toward the forest. Then we find the temple now. No more hiding. Vela touched the mark on her arm. It glowed softly again. It's this way, she said, pointing east. They moved fast, pushing through trees and moss. The forest felt alive, whispering in strange tongues, shadows moving without sound. And yet it also felt like it was welcoming her home. Finally, they came upon an ancient structure, half-buried, made of white stone and crystal. Time had covered it with vines, but the mark on Vila's arm glowed brighter with every step. This is it, she whispered. The Temple of Memory. Roran stared at the entrance. And what's inside? She looked at him and said, Answers. The Temple of Memory stood like a forgotten dream in the forest. Its walls, though broken and overgrown with vines, shimmered faintly in the golden light. Strange symbols carved into the stone pulsed with a gentle glow as if they recognized the girl who now approached. Vila stepped forward slowly, her breath caught in her throat. Roran followed behind, sword ready, eyes scanning the trees. The hunter's drone had vanished, but the danger had not. He could feel it in the air, like a storm waiting just beyond the horizon. Vila touched the edge of the temple doorway. The mark on her arm lit up, brighter than ever. A low hum echoed from inside the stone. Then, with a soft groan, the door slid open, revealing a staircase that led downward into darkness. Roran looked at her. Are you sure about this? She nodded. The temple called to my mother. Now it's calling to me. Without waiting, she stepped inside. Roran followed, the door sealing behind them. The staircase twisted deep underground. Strange blue crystals lit the walls. The air was cool, ancient. They reached a wide chamber at the bottom, filled with tall stone columns and a circular platform. In the center, at the heart of it all, stood a crystal sphere floating above the floor. It pulsed like a heartbeat. Vila walked toward it slowly. This is the memory core, she whispered. My mother said it holds the truth of our people. Roran kept watch, but his eyes never left her. She placed her hand on the sphere. Instantly it glowed with fierce light. Energy rippled through the room. The columns lit up one by one. Symbols floated into the air. Images, voices, flashes of history. Vela stood in the center of it, her eyes wide. She saw her mother, a younger version, speaking to their people in a temple like this one. She saw their cities, beautiful and tall, full of life and peace. Then came fire. Bombings. Invasions. Her people running. Her mother crying. Then, her birth. My name is Elira, said her mother's voice in the vision. If you see this, my daughter, then the world I knew has already fallen. But the light in you still burns. You are the seer's flame, the blood of queens, the last fire. The vision ended. Vela fell to her knees, gasping. Roran rushed to her, steadying her shoulders. What happened? I saw everything, she whispered. They didn't just destroy us, they erased us. our culture, our language, even our names. I'm all that's left. She stood slowly, her eyes burning with determination. But I'm not just someone running anymore. I have a purpose now. Before Roran could answer, a loud boom echoed above. The temple shook. Dust rained from the ceiling. They've found us, Roran growled. They followed the drone's signal. He drew his sword. Vela closed her eyes. Then I have to awaken. What do you mean? She turned to the crystal sphere. The memory core isn't just a recorder. It's a gate. It can awaken the true power in my blood if I choose. Roran's eyes narrowed. And if you do? She looked at him. Then I stop being someone who needs saving and become someone who saves. Another explosion shook the walls. Do it, he said without hesitation. Vela placed both hands on the sphere. The room filled with golden fire. Her body rose above the floor. Light poured from her hands, her eyes, her skin. Symbols swirled around her. The crystal pulsed. Faster. Her mark burned like the sun. Roran stepped back, shielding his eyes. Outside, the invaders stormed through the forest. Armored bounty captains, war drones, and desert mercenaries. They surrounded the temple, blasters ready. Inside, Vela screamed. Not in pain, but in power. Her hair flowed upward, her voice echoed in every wall. The light turned white, then blue, then gold again, then silence. She floated down slowly. The sphere faded into dust. Roran looked at her. She stood taller now. Her eyes no longer glowed. They blazed. Her skin shimmered faintly with energy. She looked like a queen born from the stars. He whispered, "You're different." Vela nodded. "I've remembered who I am." The ceiling cracked. "They're coming," Roran said. "Can you control it?" Vela turned toward the stairs, her hand raised. Fire swirled around her fingertips. "Let's find out." Together, they climbed back to the temple entrance. Outside, the bounty captain raised his weapon. "Surrender the girl." Roran stepped forward, but Vela gently pulled him back. "Not this time," she said softly. She stepped into the light. The wind blew her hair like a banner. Her hands lifted slowly. Energy gathered in the air. The captain shouted, "Fire!" But before a single shot was fired, Vela slammed her palms. Together. A shockwave exploded from her body. Fire and light raced across the forest floor, throwing every soldier backward. Drones crashed. Weapons melted. The trees bent but did not burn. Only the invaders suffered. When the light faded, no one stood against her. Roran stepped beside her, stunned. She looked at him with a calm smile. The fire within me was never just for survival. It was for justice. He smiled back, sword still in hand. "Remind me never to stand on the wrong side of you." Viola turned to the temple one last time. Then together, they walked toward the horizon. The smoke had cleared. The ground was still warm from the fire Viola had released, but the air was peaceful. Trees swayed gently as if whispering thanks. The invaders were gone. Some had fled. Others lay unconscious in the forest. Scattered. Like broken pieces of a forgotten army. The ancient temple behind her stood quiet again, its duty complete. And in the center of it all stood Viola, calm, steady, and full of a power that no one could deny now. Beside her, Roran stood quietly, his sword still in hand, though he didn't need it anymore. He watched her. Not like someone looking at a weapon, but someone looking at something sacred, something rare. He had seen warriors, kings, and monsters, but he had never seen anything like Viola. They walked together through the quiet forest, the sky turning pale orange as the sun began to rise. Every step they took away from the temple felt like a step toward something new. Not just escape, not just survival, but something that might change the galaxy itself. Roran broke the silence. "First, where do we go now?" Viola looked ahead. "To the ancient city of Trinix. My mother told me once, if the temple awakens, the crown waits there." "Crown?" he asked. Viola nodded. A symbol of leadership. It's more than gold. It links to the old system, something that once brought all our people together. If I wear it, they'll know who I am, and they'll listen. And if they don't, Viola smiled gently, then I'll make them. They found an old path through the trees. Nature had taken over, but stone tiles were still visible under the grass. Viola's arm pulsed softly, leading the way. They walked for hours, speaking little. But silence between them had grown warm, like a bond that didn't need words anymore. Finally, the forest opened up. Trinix, or what was left of it, tall buildings, made of stone and crystal, lay in ruins cracked from time and war. Vines covered statues of old queens. Birds nested in the hollow spaces where bells once rang. And at the very center stood a tower, round, silver, and still glowing faintly in the early light. Viola's heart beat faster. She could feel the energy pulling her forward. She stepped into the center square, where a platform waited. On it rested a small pedestal, and resting atop it, untouched by time, was a silver crown shaped like open wings. Roran stopped a few feet back. He didn't say a word. Vela stepped forward slowly. The air around the crown shimmered, almost humming. Like a quiet song, she reached for it but paused. "I'm scared," she whispered. "What if I'm not enough?" Roran stepped closer. "You already were enough before the temple, before the fire. You were enough when you were chained, and still didn't give up." Viola looked at him. "Why do you believe in me so much?" He gave a small smile. "Because I've fought for many things. Money, orders, revenge. But you're the first thing I've ever wanted to protect because it was right." Vela felt tears in her eyes, not from pain, but something deeper. She turned to the crown, took a deep breath, and placed it gently on her head. The moment it touched her, the ground beneath her feet glowed. A surge of power filled the city. Lights came on in broken towers. Old machines awoke from sleep. The statues around the square began to glow with life, and a signal shot into the sky. A bright beam that cracked through the clouds. Every scanner in orbit would see it. Every eye watching the stars would know. The air had returned. Roran stepped back and watched in silence. The silver crown shimmered on her head, fitting perfectly. Her posture changed, not just stronger, but graceful, noble. She didn't look like the girl he saved from the wheel anymore. She looked like someone who had chosen to rise. Suddenly, a soft whirring came from behind. An old projection system activated. A message played, a final recording from the last. Queen Viola's mother. "If you are seeing this, my daughter, then hope has returned. Speak with courage. Lead with love, and always remember, the crown is not the power, the heart is." Viola touched the crown gently. "I remember," she whispered. Roran approached slowly. "What now, Your Highness?" She turned and laughed softly. "Don't call me that." He shrugged. "Then what should I call you?" She thought for a moment, then said, "Just Viola. That's enough for now." They stood at the edge of the platform, looking out over the broken city, now filled with new light. Far in the distance, ships would soon come. Some would bring allies, others would bring war. But it didn't matter. Vela was ready, and she wasn't alone. Roran looked at her and said quietly, "I stood between the executioner and a girl on a wheel. I didn't know what I was doing then, but now I know." Vela turned to him. "What?" "I wasn't saving a stranger," he said. "I was standing with a future queen." She smiled, walked beside him, and reached for his hand. "No," she said softly. "You were standing with a friend, and now I'll always stand with you." And together, warrior and heir, they faced the dawn.